In the summer of 1518, something strange and terrifying happened in the city of Strasbourg. It began with a single woman known as Frau Trophäa. She walked out into the narrow streets and began to dance. There was no music, no festival, and no celebration. Just one woman silently and uncontrollably moving to a rhythm no one else could hear. At first, people watched with curiosity. Some laughed, others shook their heads. But the next day, she was still dancing. Her feet were swollen and bleeding, but she couldn't stop. And then, something even more bizarre happened. Others started joining her. One by one, townspeople stepped into the street and began to dance. Within a week, dozens were moving in the same strange, unstoppable trance. They danced day and night. People collapsed from exhaustion only to rise and continue. By the end of the month, over 400 people were caught in what looked like a living nightmare. They danced until their feet gave out. Some suffered strokes, some had heart attacks, some died on the spot. The city officials were in a panic. Clergy members believed it was divine punishment. Doctors thought it was an illness caused by overheated blood. Their proposed solution was disturbing: more dancing. They believed the only way to cure it was to let the dancers dance the madness out of their bodies. So the city built a stage in the center of town and hired musicians to play. They believed organized dancing might help ease the suffering. Instead, it made things worse. The music drove people deeper into the trance. The crowd of dancers grew more frenzied, more delirious, and more broken. People were collapsing in agony. Some danced until their legs snapped beneath them. Others cried out for help as their bodies moved without control. The musicians kept playing, the city kept watching, and the dancers kept dying. Strasbourg had fallen into chaos. A public health disaster turned into a medieval horror show, and no one had any idea what was causing it. Finally, after more than a month of madness, the city changed course. The music was banned, the dancers were taken away from the streets and led to a shrine in the mountains to pray for healing. Slowly, the dancing began to stop. Some of the afflicted returned to normal, others were never seen again, and the city was left with unanswered questions, silent streets, and hundreds of graves. But the mystery didn't end there. What exactly caused the dancing plague of 1518? Was it a physical illness, a psychological outbreak, or something else entirely? Let's explore the theories. Many historians believe the dancing plague was a case of mass hysteria, now known as mass psychogenic illness. This is when a group of people under extreme psychological stress begin to experience the same physical symptoms without a clear medical cause. Strasbourg in 1518 was a place of famine, disease, and fear. The people were desperate and their beliefs were steeped in superstition and religion. In such conditions, it's possible that anxiety and hopelessness exploded into physical action. The mind, overwhelmed by fear, could have convinced the body to move uncontrollably. Others believe it was caused by a toxic mold called ergot, which can grow on damp rye. When consumed, ergot can cause powerful hallucinations, convulsions, and bizarre behavior. It's chemically similar to LSD. This could explain the frantic movements, confusion, and even the hallucinations. However, critics argue that ergot poisoning usually makes people too sick to stand, let alone dance for days. Plus, if it were food poisoning, wouldn't people have also been vomiting, shaking, or having seizures? Then there's the religious theory. At the time, people believed in the power of saints to both bless and curse. One saint in particular, Saint Vitus, was feared as someone who could punish sinners by making them dance uncontrollably. Some believed the dancers were cursed by Saint Vitus himself. The idea was so strong that many of the afflicted were taken to a mountaintop shrine dedicated to him. They walked for miles barefoot and bleeding to beg for forgiveness. Could belief alone have been powerful enough to cause mass suffering? It's also worth noting that this wasn't the only time such a thing happened. Other outbreaks of dancing mania were reported across Europe between the 14th and 17th centuries. In 1374, hundreds danced through the streets of Aachen, Germany, screaming and hallucinating. In 1237, a group of children danced all the way from Erfurt to Arnstadt, a journey of nearly 20 kilometers. Some historians even connect that event to the legend of the Pied Piper. These events shared the same terrifying symptoms: uncontrollable dancing, hallucinations, collapse, and death. What ties them all together is the lack of explanation. No consistent physical cause has ever been confirmed. No single theory fits perfectly. Each possibility, hysteria, poison, religion, explains some things but leaves others unanswered. So what really happened in Strasbourg in 1518? Maybe it was a perfect storm: hunger, fear, superstition, and social pressure. all exploding into a tragic, surreal event. Maybe it was something we still don't understand, something buried deep in the human mind, or even something darker. To this day, the dancing plague remains one of the strangest medical and social mysteries in human history, a medieval horror that truly happened and could, under the right conditions, happen again.